Let's look at our crappy culture. Well, you probably saw this, but it's worth looking at. Saturday Night Live. This guy Pete Davidson. He's been in the news because he broke up with that singer. What's her name? Ariana. Shout it out.
Ariana Grande.
Yeah, thank you, Ariana Grande. That's so. I remember the kids loved her. I remember when I was working on a hotline with young kids who they just loved Ariana Grande, but apparently she didn't love Pete Davidson. They were engaged, and she broke it off. He was on the news segment, their headline news segment. I don't watch the show anymore because I think it is absolutely unfunny. I mean, I just think it's one unfunny skit after another. But he was doing this kind of childish thing where he was, it could have been funny. He was making fun of the way Republicans look. He was just characterizing their looks. He had one Democrat in there, Andrew Cuomo, but mostly it was attacking, which he said, I put in there so you think I'm fair. But mostly, as everything on Saturday Night Live, he was attacking Democrats, and he hit Dan Crenshaw, who lost an eye to an IED blast, and this was his take on him.
This guy's kind of cool. Dan Crenshaw.
Oh, come on, man.
Yo, hold on. You may be surprised to hear he's a congressional candidate from Texas and not a hitman in a porno movie. I'm sorry. I know he lost his eye in war or whatever.
Whatever, yeah. So everybody's very upset about this, including some of the left because they know it makes them look so bad. Crenshaw was on his third deployment when an IED went off, took out his eye. They told him he'd never see again. He not only could he see again after he was in a medically induced coma. His right eye was destroyed. His left eye was still present, but badly damaged. He somehow got the sight in his left eye, went back. He was deployed yet again several times. Now, I want to mention also that Pete Davidson's father was a firefighter who died running up into one of the World Trade Center buildings on 9/11, and that apparently traumatized Davidson. I don't want to spend my time being outraged by comedians. It's fine. The point to me about this was what Dan Crenshaw said. That was the most important thing to come out of this. Look, Pete Davidson has to live with himself. By the way, I do want to mention one thing. They used to have a rule on Saturday Night Live that you weren't allowed to laugh at your own jokes. That was the old. Milton Berle, one of the first comedians in TV, when TV was just invented. Milton Berle used to, and he would crack up at his own jokes to get the audience to laugh along with him. He wasn't really cracking up. He was pretending that he was just so funny he couldn't keep it together. And you weren't allowed to do that on Saturday Night Live. Because they thought it was cheap. And when they had Milton Berle on, they were furious at him. He wouldn't stop doing it because he'd been doing it all his life. And this guy, Pete Davidson, he's laughing at his own jokes. He's not that funny. He's kind of squirrely, I thought. He's kind of a weird little guy. Anyway, the most important part of the story to me is what Dan Crenshaw himself said.
I want us to get away from this culture where we demand apologies every time someone misspeaks. I think that would be very healthy for our nation to go in that direction. We don't need to be outwardly outraged. I don't need to demand apologies from them. They can do whatever they want. They're feeling the heat from around the country right now, and that's fine. But I would like him and Saturday Night Live to recognize something, which is that veterans across the country probably don't feel as though their wounds they received in battle should be the subject of a bad punchline for a bad joke. And here's the real atrocity of all this. It wasn't even funny, right? It was not original. It was not funny. It was just mean-spirited. And that's how I feel about it.
Well, absolutely accurate. But the most important thing he said there is we got to get away from this politics of outrage. I think it's a good thing to say, to speak up. We don't have to excoriate the guy. We don't have to demand he's be fired or I don't want to hear his apology. We just should say, hey, not funny. And this guy, this guy Crenshaw, who's running for Congress in Texas, this guy did something so much more important than anything that Pete Davidson did, and so did Pete Davidson's father, and he should maybe think about that. Maybe think about his dad. Maybe think about what people do for this country that makes it possible for him to go on TV and say the things he says. It's just something he should do in his conscience. He doesn't have to be hanged or fired or anything else. And in the same spirit, Michael Knowles should be put back on Twitter. I know I don't want to hear from him either, but he should be allowed.